Hello guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Programming Basics series. In this episode we'll be covering IDEs and also other development environments. So what is a development environment? Well, a development environment is where you'll be doing all your programming. It's the software you use to write the code. Types of development environments can vary. Typically there are three main categories of development environments. Full-on IDEs. IDE stands for Integrated Development Environment. Text editors, and also things kind of in between. So they're neither full IDE nor basic text editor. Okay, to start off with, we're going to look at IDEs. As an example, I'll be showing you Visual Studio, but there are many other IDEs. Visual Studio is mostly used for C languages, but can be used for others as well. Okay, so this is Visual Studio. It is a full-on IDE, which means we have a wide range of built-in features to use and test our programs. So I've just written a simple test hello world program here to run and show you guys. So first of all, we can just run it normally. It'll run it like that. You see we get our result. But with Visual Studio, we also have debugging. There are many other features. I'm just showing you example features, but debugging is one of the main features, and one way we can debug is using what are called breakpoints. So if we click next to a line of code, we can add what is called a breakpoint, and this red dot will appear, which means our program will pause running at that specific point. So what we're actually going to do is I'm going to add a couple more hello world lines just so I can show you some features. Okay. So now that we run it, we've got our breakpoint here, so it should stop before hello world is even sent out. So as you can see, the program paused running at this point, and now we have all of these things. We have what are called watches down here, where if we had any variables set, we could add a watch, and I'll stop that and do it. So if we say x equals 1, 2, 3, 4. No, not just x, because it's C, I need to actually define it. Int x equals 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that's unused, so we'll shove it into this. It doesn't really matter, but okay, so now if we carry on with our breakpoint there, it will still stop at that point. But now if we add an item to watch, if we add x, it will actually show us the contents of variable x. So it's obviously 1, 2, 3, 4. This isn't really useful in this case because 1, 2, 3, 4 is written in plain text here. But if we had a user like dynamically setting a variable or something, it's useful to see when debugging. Another good debug feature is these buttons up here, step into, step over, and step out. Step into essentially just runs the program line by line. So as you can see, we should have run the first hello world now, and as you can see, we have. Do it again. Hello world again. I can't choose step over or step out because they need loops, but you can see run it a couple more times there, and one more time, and we should have value of x 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. If we just hit continue now, it'll just continue, and got the full output there. Okay, so that's a full-on IDE, in this case Visual Studio. Obviously the features of each individual IDEs vary, and the IDE you'll use will depend on the language you're using and also your personal preference. Okay, so moving on to the next class, which is the simple text editor. Now, okay, for this, I'm using Notepad++, and as you can see, we've got a simple Python Hello World program here. But with a text editor, you don't really have many advanced features. It's simply writing text. With some text editors, you don't even have highlighting. With Notepad++, we do, but it's basically a very minimalistic way of programming. You don't have any advanced features to help you, but it also is much more lightweight. It doesn't need as many resources to run. So that's basically it for that. And then you have what I would call the hybrid editors, and in this case, I'm going to use Visual Studio Code as an example for this. Another example of what I would call a hybrid would be Sublime Text. But Visual Studio Code, I would call it a hybrid because it's very lightweight and simplistic, but it does have some IDE features such as we mentioned, those breakpoints, and it has basically the same things as Visual Studio Code, where you can step over debug, and you have watches here. So as you can see, I set up if I set up a watch here for X, it says X is hello world because that's what we've set. And if we hit continue, we run the code in hello world. Nice advantage of Visual Studio as well is extensions. There are lots of different extensions, which means it will work for a lot of different programming languages because there are extensions for them. For example, Python. And also there are unofficial extensions which allow you to do lots of other things. Like, for example, here I've got Excel Viewer, which allows me to view spreadsheets in Visual Studio Code. You've also got Git integration, which is the same as Visual Studio. And yeah, you can search files and everything as well. So, after all this explanation, what IDE should you choose? Well, that is mainly personal preference. However, you obviously have to choose an IDE which is compatible with your programming language. So, for example, C#, Visual Studio Code, a lot of text editors support it as well. Well, all text editors support it. For something like Java, you've got NetBeans, Eclipse, you've got IntelliJ. There are many different choices. However, if you're just running like a simple kind of language like Python, I would recommend Visual Studio Code, because you don't need the super advanced IDE features, and the basic ones in Visual Studio Code are all you really need. For HTML and stuff, I would also recommend Visual Studio Code, as there are a lot of really good extensions for working on web pages with Visual Studio Code. Okay, guys, that was it. If you wouldn't mind hitting the bell and subscribing, leaving a like on the video, that would mean a lot. And thanks, I'll see you in the next video.